Hi guys, and good morning or good evening. Welcome to the second edition of a video that Nick and I have been discussing from a beautiful but chilly Adelaide morning, late autumn 2024. I wanted to tell you, as I had to Nick, that about my own experiences with a half Ironman competition. I'll keep it very brief because there's so much that goes through all of our minds when we're taking on a challenge such as this, particularly those of us who might only be planning to do one in a lifetime, or those of us who are a little bit trepid about the journey ahead. I got into triathlon later on in life, and I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute, but Nick, who I'd done some training with around the Port Douglas area for a couple of years off and on while I was stationed up there in the police department, asked me just off the cuff one day, "How about you, Will? Would you like to do a half Ironman?" I go, "No." And he said, "Oh, come on, Will, it'll be fun." And I go, "Yeah, fun like having bamboo hammered under your fingernails would be fun." But long story short, together with a couple of very good friends of mine that I'd known and friends that I met along the way, I decided to start the program in very early January 2015. If you know the tropics as well as I learnt to know them over 12 years living there, you know that's the worst time to be doing any sort of training. But that was the plan leading up to July. So before you know it, I was a confident swimmer, a confident cyclist, had never really taken much to running over my years, but I know that the three performances had to be of a pretty decent level to complete the half Ironman in a reasonable time. So I got in the water and started swimming in the pool in Port Douglas, and my stroke was changed completely by the then coach, and I finally started swimming by kicking my legs and rolling my arms over at the same time, which I'd never done before. Cycling was something that came natural to me. I used to compete at a fairly high level in South Australia before I moved to Queensland. And running, well, that was my Achilles heel, for want of a better irony. That's my wife delivering me a cup of tea. So life's not bad. But anyway, so we set off on this very structured training program. The training program was done over about 5.5 or 6 months and included some wonderful rides, for example, from Cairns to Port Douglas on a beautiful Saturday morning, and then turn around in Port Douglas and ride back to Cairns. And those sort of things were fantastic, preceded by a pasta night, which is probably about the stage you guys are when you'll be listening to this. And it became more and more part of my life. And so it was not unusual, given that running was my weakest ability, for me to get out of bed at 4:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning, strap on my heart rate monitor, my Garmin, and run 16 to 18 kilometres non-stop before breakfast, just at a steady rate. Go home, jump in the pool, have some breakfast, go to work. And I really got into running as a consequence of that, mostly doing it on my own. So eventually race day came. The day before race day, we met down at Palm Cove, and the sea was wild, and I mean wild, 4 foot, 5 foot waves. And I was thinking, good, it'll be cancelled. We got down there next morning at, 4 o'clock for the swim leg starting at 5:30 or whatever time it was. And the sea was as flat as a biscuit. The first mistake I made was lining up initially in the stage group where I thought it would take me 45 minutes or 40 minutes to swim the leg. But I wandered forward a little bit, and I found myself speaking with guys without realising it, who were probably 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds faster swimmers than I was. So we jump in the water at the given time, and before I know it, I'm striking out. I've probably done 100 metres, and people are crawling over the top of me, going past, kicking me in the head, dislodging my goggles, kicking me in other parts of my body that a man doesn't necessarily want to be kicked in. And but anyway, I get out of the water in about 45 minutes from memory. Wasn't particularly quick, but it was not bad. And I set out on the bike leg. I was vomitous when I got out of the water. And I took a bit longer in the transition than I should have, but I got away. Headed off to Port Douglas. And I was sailing along to Port Douglas on my own, thinking this is a breeze. I soon realised why, because when I turned around at Ewell Point to head back to Cairns, I found out there was a headwind. It was a headwind. It was a tough gig all the way back to Cairns. Get back to Cairns Esplanade, we'd been told, low gear, get on the small gear, lactose out of the legs, into the legs. I don't understand any of that, but make your legs feel better. The crowd cheers you on. They would cheer every individual, and it's an amazing environment. When they were cheering me on, because no one within 200 metres either end of me, I chucked a bigger gear on and sailed along the Esplanade. And it wasn't until I got off the bike that I realised, dickhead, shouldn't have done that. But I had done it. Got off the bike, put my runners on, and away I went. As soon as I hit the concrete, off the lawn where my bike was, my feet were like jelly, my legs were like jelly. And it was a struggle to do the 21.1 Ks, to be very honest. It was a struggle. There was as much walking probably as there was running. My wife met me as I was doing my second lap. I was about 300 metres from the finish line. My wife called out and stopped and gave me a kiss, and she said, "I'm proud of you." And I said, "I love you." And I rubbed in my clothing, my wife had sewn my wedding ring, and I'd ask her to sew it in case anything happened on the event where I thought I was in trouble. I would grasp my wedding ring. That may well have been my last physical act I did on earth. That was my spirit around that. And I took off again, and of course, naturally, the last 100 metres down the finishing chute, I was like Fidibides. I ran like the wind. Finished. Nick was there. One of the other colleagues was there, Liz. And he got the finisher's medal and a towel, and I felt $1 million. One of the things that Nick made very clear to us before the start, about a week or 2 weeks before the start, was you've got to get out there and have fun. Forget about your time. You've done the journey. You've done the journey. You've done the training. So the time is of no great consequence. It'll look after itself. His point was, go out and have fun. Most of us are ever going to do one Ironman or one half Ironman in our lives. It's important that you focus on having fun, enjoying the experience, because it is a wonderful, wonderful experience. I still tell people to this day, it was fun. And they look at me as if, oh, you mean like bamboos under the fingernails are fun? I said, no, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I limped for a while. I was 61 years old when I did my first triathlon, and that was an Ironman. I've never done an Ironman since, or half Ironman. I've never done a triathlon since. I've done one half marathon. I'm still quite fit. I'm now 70 years old. I'm still quite fit despite some issues I've had. But go out there and have fun. Enjoy. It is a wonderful experience. I wish you all the best. I hope to be up there in 2025, so I can be at the start and finish line to spur you or any of your future colleagues over the line. But remember, if you hear me, don't wind up the big gear. Stay on the low gear as you're going down the esplanade. If you have any questions, pass them through Nick. But I do wish you all the best, and it is a wonderful experience. And no matter what happens, if you finish it, you're a winner and you're an athlete. And I wish you all the very, very best. I'll keep an eye on you and Nick. He's a great motivator and a great mate. And bye-bye from Adelaide.